The end of the previous section, a paragraph or whatever, section in the print, we are on page Nun Ches, Ois Chav Ches, and we went through the first section on this page, and I want to start on 2 lines before the end. Essentially, what we learned over here was what is the principle, what is the tzimtzum, what is the tzimtzum effect, and what is the accomplishment of tzimtzum.
Well, we're in the middle of talking about 2 tzimtzum.
Right. Now I'm saying in general, what is tzimtzum? And in tzimtzum there is 2 stages. There's initial tzimtzum where the Oyer Ein Sof is being concealed and being withdrawn. When the Oyer Ein Sof is withdrawn, then spheres surface. But then the spheres are still interrelated, intertwined. What's called taruvis. The spheres, I want to put in this point which I understand. The spheres are still retaining their status, their lofty status of being part of the Ein Sof. You're not connected here.
Baruch asked us to call in. I see we are called in,
yeah,
but I think it's not connected to the bridge.
All right, let me try to connect it. So at that point, the spheres are still bisarvus, all the spheres together. And I explained, what is this, the meaning of this? Is it a point of confusion? No, Chas v'shalom, no, it's I give the following illustration of this state. When a person speaks, it's possible for him to stumble on his words, and one word comes out of order from the other, and then he gets stuck. When a person thinks, there is no such interference. The thought goes smooth. And what is the reason for that? Thought is also quite clear. The reason for that is that thought is very intricately connected to the essence, to the source. What he's thinking about. When he's speaking, he's got 2 things in mind. One, he's thinking what he's trying to say, and and the fact that he wants to create this and replicate what his thoughts, the idea on the outside arena. And there could be a stumbling, a confusion. What comes first and what comes second? When you build a table, is it necessary that you build the board first and the 4 legs second? No, you can build the 4 legs first and the board second. On the other hand, you can build 2 legs and put a board and then 2 other legs. It's a completely different phenomenon. When you think of a table, of the reality of it, you don't get confused there. So the spheres, when we say the spheres are bisarvus, intertwined and all mixed in, does not mean there is confusion. There is no possibility of confusion because they're all representing, and they all still sense sense the oil in self that they are representing. And that's why there's no confusion. But this is still not ready for the world. Because the world cannot relate to Ein Sof, and they cannot relate to two spheres at once. They have to relate to one sphere at a time. That's why there's a second Tzimtzum. Second Tzimtzum is when the spheres begin to surface individually. And the first sphere that surfaces individually is Spheres HaChochmah, as we discussed the other day. Yes, sir.
I just want to mention, I don't know yet how to relate to the idea of Tzimtzum, but maybe, I don't know if it's relevant to what you're saying, but in my...
I'll tell you how to relate to Tzimtzum. Very, very simple. We experience this all the time. Not that level, but the principle we experience all the time. The principle we experience all the time.
Okay. All right, so then, in my previous, long time ago, secular studies, I studied Sigmund Freud, and he invented the concept of slip of tongue, which means somebody is trying to say something, and then something else comes out that reveals actually the truth. I mean, that reveals a side of him that is...
But he was involved.
Yeah, so in other words, he was trying to say something and something else was revealed.
That's right.
Through that slip of tongue.
Right.
How do we connect to what we just said?
You are greeting a person, and in the greeting, what you're expressing is your affection and your connection to this person.
Yes.
You're concerned about this person. But then you're concerned about this person. Deep down is really concerned about yourself. But you're not going to tell him, listen, I'm concerned about myself, so therefore I want to use you as a springboard. That you're not going to say at all, and not only you're not going to say, you don't think it that way. But underneath it, what motivated this whole process is some kind of personal interest. And this personal interest is completely camouflaged in the background, and what you are actually expressing is a concern about this person. And then there's a slip of the tongue. Slip of the tongue is that kind of brings out the other side of your thinking. This is what Freud was talking about.
This is what?
This is what Freud was talking about. I would like to leave Freud out of it.
Okay.
He doesn't belong here.
Okay.
Freud did not understand this.
That's what I thought.
He doesn't belong here at all.
Okay, fine. I won't mention it anymore.
Let me explain. I mean, people are looking at me with Freud. We have to understand one big principle which I'm repeating all the time. Freud is based on the principle that human beings develop from monkeys. There is no human being from a real arena. It is all convenience on the practical and the external level. We don't believe. We don't. This is not what we're talking about at all. We're talking about the nefesh. Beyond the nefesh, we're talking about the giver of the nefesh. How we relate to the giver of the nefesh.
I knew that it was not going to be relevant, but I thought we might be able to connect to Hasidus.
Yes, we might, in order to segregate him and leave him out of it.
No, I've known your long-time allergy to Sigmund Freud in general, and I don't want to to interfere in the
No, I'm not
the
concerned
flow
about
of the
I just okay,
Shira.
fine. I'm saying this is one of the things that we are struggling with, and we don't understand the paramount difference between what we are talking about, Chassidus is talking about, what Sigmund Torah is talking about. He's also talking about human thought process, but completely from a different angle and based on a different base.
That we shouldn't be interested in.
We should not be interested unless they use this for medicinal purposes. Sometimes this method helps to get a person out of a state of mind and so forth. But in terms of learning and understanding it, no, of course not. There is not a fundamental truth to it. It has sometimes it has some practical value, but fundamental truth is not there at all. This is not the basis of human thought. Human thought is based on his awareness of Motzui Rishon. That is human thought. We don't even know what that is, but he is aware of Motzui Rishon. Okay. Okay, so Chochmah is the first sphera that surfaces. That's in the second phase of the Tzimtzum. And we explained last time, why is it Chochmah that surfaces as at first? Because Chochmah represents totally the what is being presented to it, rather than how it absorbs it, how it relates to it. Chochmah does not have its own yeshus, its own mitzias. It doesn't ask, make sense to me, explain to me what you're saying. It hasn't say that. It immediately accepts and understands what you're saying, because it relates to the truth directly.
It's a great makabel right there.
It's a great makabel, and what makabel is not even suitable. It connects. Makabel is one who receives it and takes it externally to himself.
So, okay, that fits more by Malchus.
Chochmah just connects. Mikorev, he connects directly. This is why Chochmah is the first one to surface. Chochmah is the bridge. I don't know to what extent we went to understand. Please try to understand. Chochmah is the bridge between Oyer and Seif and world. How is it a bridge? Because Chochmah recognizes Oyer and Seif. But it recognizes Oyer and Seif from an observer's perspective, from an outside view. And therefore it can convey that what I observed to Bina. And then Bina is able to digest it within its own world, its own parameters. But the reality that everything is based on is drawn from is what Chochmah brings to it. This is an extremely important principle, because if we are going to start building independently of Chochmah, then that's what happens to a confused world completely. This is why Bina is counted along with Chochmah, because Bina is so clearly connected to Chochmah. It does not want to venture out on its own.
Chochmah doesn't.
No, Bina doesn't. Bina wants to understand what's in Chochmah.
He wants to look to Chochmah and build based on that.
That's right. Bina Libo. We say it, we know it, we say Bina Libo. The same Bina Bina. We pray that Rebbe should give B'libeinu in our hearts Bina. Obviously, say Chochmah and Bina are Koiches HaMoiche, not the heart. So what is the difference between B'libeinu and Bina? We want Bina as Bina ultimately reflects itself in the heart. Because if it were in the Moyach takes over and begins its own path, its own research. We don't want to go there. We want that the Bina should, the Moyach should take it from the Chochmah and then reflect in the heart. The heart does not do its own research. The heart experiences what is presented to it. That's the real Bina. What? You didn't get it.
Oh wow, that's very interesting.
I can also miss how the heart. What Chokhmah has is reflected in the heart, and Bina looks to that.
The Bina as reflected in the heart, this is the Bina that we're asking for. Okay, let's go to our Mashalim again. Go back to our table. So we already discussed table down to the ground. The table is a representation, is a spark of the human, of the neshama, of the neshama of the person. And the first comes in the form of Chokhmah. Chokhmah recognizes what is in the neshama, and this is where it's conceptualized, the table. And at that level, the table truly speaks in terms of human dignity and so forth. But then the table takes shape, and this dignity is translated on the practical level. How do you translate dignity on the practical level? That you sit at a table and the table serves you and so forth. At that level, when we observe a table, are we thinking in terms of human dignity, or are we talking about human comfort? Hello?
Comfort.
Dignity is the source, but what are we experiencing at that moment? This is a comfortable place. This is the heart response to the Bina. This is how the Chokhmah translates further in Bina where Chokhmah affects the Bina and brings truth to it.
On the Bina level.
On the Bina level. And this is how it happened. We say when Mizboinen in a Yin Eliki, in a Chochsech Eliki, and this Mizboinus brings about that the heart is affected and the Midas are affected. The Seichel is not going to affect the Midas. Pure Seichel. Pure Seichel is going to continue to dig further and say, I still don't understand.
So how can I say an example on Mizboin in Laki? How is the heart Mizboin in Laki?
Okay, this is not in the purview of this. When Laki means bring the Laki, come closer to the Laki. This is the reality. This is how the Rebbe is present in the world. All right.
What would be the mistake, let's say, on the example of the table, if he would not, he would relate to the cycle, not to the heart. How would it play out?
You would think of it in a distant manner, objectively. You would not be personally involved.
Not
You would
about
not touch.
comfort, but just the idea.
That's right. All right, let's continue. So the last line of the previous section is this.
Sorry.
Ach,
I'm sorry.
Tzimtzum.
I'm sorry, Mara.
The last line of the third paragraph, right?
Yeah. The line begins Ha-Chochma. Net als Sfiras HaChochma levad, when Sfiras HaChochma were brought forth, then Sfiras HaChochma came forth in a vada by itself. When Sfiras HaChochma emanates levada by itself, that goes into a different arena now. Not into the that completely divorces itself from the Oil Ein Sof per se. Oil Ein Sof has everything. Here is Sfiras HaChochma by itself. So this Sfiras HaChochma levada, this is where Sfiras HaChochma comes into the realm of Mitzias, of presence. It's still Chochma, but it's an realm of Mitzias. Let us take it in our simple experience. We said that Chochma is reflected, the Gashmi on sight. I don't want to go very, very, very elaborately and take up a lot of time, because we should all be able to understand immediately what we're talking about. Sight, when we go and look at the world, surely sight, the first thing that we see is the sky and the open space and all-encompassing reality. That which provides for everything. In that level, we do not distinguish between seeing the sky, or seeing the earth, or seeing the clouds, or seeing everything else. It's all one reality. When we see the sky and the earth and trees, the sky, this is an automatic sight. This is a Chochma vision, because there's no way to define what you see. This is just seeing the reality. A tree, you know exactly what you're looking at. So the tree is a completely different level of sight than seeing the sky. Yet, at the initial stage, we do not distinguish between this side and this side. We see the entire reality. It's all equally real. When we begin to think of what we experience, what we're seeing, then we begin to distinguish between seeing the sky and seeing the tree. And they identify this is a completely different sight from this. The tree is a tangible presence. The sky is not. The sky is really pure sight. The tree is seeing that which is tangible. It's a completely different reality. When we begin to experience, so to speak, this whole phenomenon of sphere, of sight, then we begin to identify the difference, and the spheres are Chochmah Levado, distinguish the Chochmah from everything else. Like in our own experience. When we come out, say, so to speak, come into the big world, we relate to everything at once. But the Chochmah element, like I said before, Chochmah is the basis for Bina. The Chochmah element is what gives reality to everything else. How come there's room for the tree? Because it's the sky. There's room for the house. Like we said the other day, the reason people thought of an empire still living because they were able to look. They were able to look up in the sky. Bishop Shat Tzviza Chochmah Levado. Tzviza Chochmah is being isolated by itself. You see what Chochmah tells you, even though you see everything else, but that's not the same level of sight. Once you begin to distinguish and separate between the various experiences, then you have individual spheres. Then you talk about defining elements in the spheres, in the koiches. Okay, I'm talking about however, okay, with two lines. Tzimtzum ha'alev hu. You say that two tzimtzumim, there's a difference. Tzimtzum ha'alev, the first tzimtzum who consists in fact between a siluk v'yisamus ha'oyer. That has the siluk of removing and the concealment of the oyer. Oyer in soif had to be completely removed in order that sphere should surface. V'tzimtzum habeis, we're on page Nuches. V'tzimtzum habeis, and the second tzimtzum who became a smiut levad. Tzimtzum habeis is a different process. The process for tzimtzum habeis is miut, reduction of the effect of the oil, reduction of what you're seeing with chokhmah. Chokhmah levado, not chokhmah as it also enables everything else. This is so even though there are two tzimtzumim, we need both tzimtzumim, but there's a difference in the process of the tzimtzum. The ach tzimtzum aleph, ach is an allusion to the principle we said before, that here below by us in our own experience in the nefesh, there is one tzimtzum. But l'maylo there are two tzimtzum. There's removal of the Ein Sof, and then it's surfacing the spheres individually. So there's such a dramatic difference. So he says, however, the difference is not that dramatic, because l'maylo too, there's a difference between the first tzimtzum and the second tzimtzum. The real tzimtzum is the first tzimtzum. We remove the Ein Sof. Just like in Lamato, if you remove the word element, you have oisius. Immediately. The Milo, you have the spheres, but still there has to be reduction of the oil, so that the oil hachochma becomes more self-contained, more limited.
Can I talk to you?
Sir.
Hello?
Yep.
Can I just ask, why do we refer to this process in the second tzimtzum as miyut?
That's what he's explaining. The second tzimtzum is miyut lamad. That's how you refer to it. He's trying to explain that even though lamala we have two tzimtzum, lamata we have only one tzimtzum. However, the difference is not that dramatic, that extreme. Because the second tzimtzum lamala is not really an independent tzimtzum.
The question I'm asking is why the word miyut means reduction.
Right.
It seems like the second tzimtzum is separation. Why do we call it reduction?
How did the separation occur? The separation
Well,
occur-
I'm not sure I get into that, but I don't see how.
No,
it
no,
relates
that's
to
the answer
concept
to your
of
question.
reduction.
The separation
Okay.
occurs by reduction of the oil. Which is why the sphere becomes identified by itself.
Which oil is being reduced?
The oil that initially was represented by the sphere.
And if this oil were not reduced, we don't have any more Ein Sof in any of this oil, right? It's all gone, the Ein Sof.
The Ein Sof is all gone, but the spheres, as explained in the beginning, the spheres are still representing. This is why there is the mix-up of the spheres, because they are still representing the oil from where they came from.
Mm-hmm. And that's what gets reduced in the second
That's what gets
tzimtzum.
reduced, right?
Okay.
And all the things that we have used, and all the reasons Mishalim, you can further develop on that basis. You know, the site and all that. I don't want to take time with everything, but suffice it that this was being said, and there is what to work with. Shia Beis is miyut lavad, is only miyut reduction of the oil that all the spheres represented. When the oil was in a great expression, then the spheres were able to intertwine together because they're all speaking about the same thing. Just as in our motion of sight, the house and the street and the table and the chair, they're all speaking about the same thing. Unless you reduce the oil, unless you start talking from a more lower level. Then you can identify individually the house and the table and chair. Okay. Okay, let's continue. Yes, sir.
In our previous shiro last week, we said that within the first tzimtzum, which you just defined as removing or Ein Sof,
Right.
there was a trace. There was a reshimu. There was an equivalent of something that we called before reshimu.
Yeah.
So is that reshimu the idea of miyut levad?
This is what's left over, and then we have to have a miyut in that. This is the projection of what's going to be after the tzimtzum. That's a Rishimu, that's a Reishim, that's the Esesphiras Agnuzis. So then there has to be further reduction of that oil.
Is this happening lemaila?
Yeah, it's happening in Maila. It's happening in Maila. We also have the motion here Lamata. This is happening in Maila before the creation could take place.
This is the Rishimu?
What?
This is the Rishimu that we talk about, or this is what we're calling a Rishimu?
I don't know.
This is the Rishimu that we talk about in,
Yeah.
in Chassidus.
Yeah.
Rishimu.
The ancestry is like a nuzes?
How?
The ancestry is like a nuzes?
The Esesphiras Agnuzis. When after the tzimtzum, what we have, what's left, is that which was the shiur, which was projection. That's what Esesphiras Agnuzis is about. That projection remains after the tzimtzum.
Right. That's the regime, but this is the regime.
That's the issue.
But this reduction we're talking about now, the reduction happened in the Rishimu.
That's right, after the Shema.
I thought that this is show. I thought that he made up that this is the Rishima Shosh HaKelim. It's Oisis and the Orin Sif, and this is Shosh HaOiris.
Ah.
That's what I thought. I didn't think that.
Correct.
Also.
If you are distinguishing between Kailam and Eres, it will be the same thing. But we will have to go into that difference. But right now we're talking about the way it is in Oyer and Seif. In Oyer and Seif, we have the Esa Spheres Hagnusis, both the Oyer and the Kailam. It's important, it's extremely challenging, but we're learning. And what I'm going to say is double challenging. But that's what this is all about. We should not lose sight of what we are talking about, what this is about. So we're going to go in the next section, and we will further elaborate on this point that I just now said. Ulfizem move on. According to this, move on. It's understood. Eich, how this happens to be the reality, the truth, the fact. Shehakav legabe shorshi u'mekoiroi. That the kav, what is the kav? The kav is the organized presentation of the spheres. One sphere below the other. And we explained the phenomenon of the kav. The whole idea of a kav is that the spheres are organized so that they can be revealed and produced in an orderly fashion to enable them to be accepted by the world, by worldly parameters. The kav legabe shoshu mekoiroi, relative and from the perspective of its source. What is the source of the kav? Hu bivchinas gilui hahel. That actually the kav is not a novel status, but it has the quality of gilui hahelem, that which was in a concealed state, now it came revealed. Even though the orderly organization of the spheres and the kav was not there before, it was not there begilui, but behelem it was. Why was it behelem? Because the whole thing was a projection how it would be after the tzimtzum.
In the kav.
In Seif, the Hashorah.
Yeah, but
From this came the kav. From this came the kav. From this projection came the kav.
Yeah, but the projection was how it should be in the kav.
How it should be in the world. Let us take this into our arena and go back to this silly thought process. I can see with a table. And I can see with a table. I can see not just of having a table, of building a table. How is the table going to materialize? Even though that building process occurs much further down. When I already have a home and now I have to place it, I have to really kind of translate the idea on on the physical level. But when I originally conceived of the table and projected it's going to be a table, in that was already contained the phenomenon that table is doable. I didn't think how. But it has a place in the world. This is not a so to speak, a pipe dream. Precisely how it's going to materialize, I'm still going to see. But the world certainly provides for it. And there's a way to there will be, when I come to it, there will be a way to materialize it.
Again, is the assumption that it will be practically doable?
Yeah.
Why? What? Okay. Debate. Why would? I mean, you're dealing with a level of so-called ideal. Why would there necessarily be the assumption that it's going to work in practice?
Because the ideal is a projection, how that truth as I have it now, how this will how this can be reflected in the world. That's what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Hashori is. A projection. Should we go back back for a moment? And that's what I'm going to. The way it is in the Nefesh HaAdam, there is no table separate from the principle of a Nefesh. A Nefesh is a godly reality, and it stands aloof of all worldly challenges. It is what it is, and everything that it is there automatically. It provides for itself. It's a godly reality. It's Ein Sof. When this nefesh has to come down into the goof and reveal its quality within in a worldly arena, then it already needs means by which to reveal it. All kinds of different pieces. But this projection that this nefesh could come down into the world and retain its dignity in the worldly arena, that's projected all the way in the beginning. Therein is already included and contained, so to speak, the feasibility of translating the phenomenal greatness, richness of the nefesh, how this will be translated and how it should be translated on an external basis level in the goof.
Is that linked to the idea of something I said in the Khalak?
I don't know, man. Okay, so you understand? This is the Indian that he was. The kav is Gilui HaHelem. That's what we point. The Rebbe is trying to show. Kav is not it's a Gilui HaHelem. That was this which ultimately materialized in the world. Is really a godliness. A godliness on the revealed level. Revealed means you identify every detail of it.
But all of this you're talking about now was contained within the projection, within the Rishima.
Wait a second. It was contained within the Rishima, and then when it comes into the kav is a gili of that which was in the Rishima Behelam.
But in the Rishimu, it was still all mixed together. The Rishimu itself.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. They still needed a second tzimtzum.
You can't get world from Rishimu, period, by itself.
No, you have to. That's right. You have to tzimtzum and draw individual spheres.
We brought in this word Rishimu now.
Huh?
We brought in the word Rishimu just today.
No.
We didn't use that word really.
Actually, we used another word last week.
Shara.
Hashara.
Ashara, Nakuda.
Hashara is what's left after the tzimtzum. That's a rishim.
So Ashara and Nishimu are parallel?
Hashara
They're
is
different.
before the tzimtzum, and the shim is what's left after the tzimtzum.
After the first tzimtzum.
After the first tzimtzum. Again, I always like that we should come back to reality. The reason we are able to understand all of these things is not because we can project and fly off on a high flight. Is because this exists in our nefesh. This exists in our nefesh. Where does it exist in our nefesh? I must bring back the simplest thing. We should pay attention to this. We're sitting around the table. The table is totally an external piece of furniture. And it was built, as a matter of fact, by a carpenter in his shop. He didn't even build it in my dining room. And then after he designed it in his shop, and assigned a place for it, he brought it into my dining room. All of a sudden, it becomes united to my dining room. Becomes one piece with the dining room. Not only becomes one piece of the dining room, it becomes one piece with my occupying this dining room, with my presence in the dining room. An interesting piece of history. Going back in the Middle Ages, there was a whole effort. They were developing art, music and art in a most expressed manner. Who were the musicians, or who were the composers, or who were the artists? Artists were the people who knew how to draw and make pictures. Who took credit for it?
Religion.
Who took credit for it? The one who
The patron.
Huh?
The patron.
Who patronized it?
Yeah.
The one who
The
ordered
one who
it.
commissioned the work.
Who commissioned it? He took credit for it. Was this a misplaced honor? It's not so. This is just like the carpenter is the one who builds the table, but who commissions the table? Where does the table fit? It fits in a human home.
What do you mean by who took credit? What do you mean by that? Everybody knows Michelangelo. Nobody knows remembers the name of the Pope who commissioned it.
Well, that's later on, but initially, this is what they were doing. This is what in their honor. They commissioned it because that represented their appreciation, their status, and so forth.
We got into this by saying, let's get back to reality. We understand this, right? We understand this because it exists in our nefesh, in the soul. And then it was said where, and then we went to this table and the carpenter. What's our
What's the
takeaway,
point?
yeah.
Okay, so here's the point. Here's the very point. Look, you're sitting at the table. The table was built by a carpenter someplace else and brought into the house. Do you feel like you're sitting up around a strange entity?
No.
Did you have to learn how to acclimate to it? You shouldn't interfere with your freedom, with your personal expression. Not at all. It represents you. because it's rooted in your nefesh. And then even if it becomes completely externalized, completely factualized, to the point where it had to be built outside of your home and brought in, it completely unifies with your home, unifies with your psyche, and you fully appreciate what this is about. Not only you appreciate, you're the one who gives it value. When somebody comes in and says, hey, oh, what a beautiful, you want to say, oh, what a good job the carpenter did. No, you have a nice table. A table that gives honor to the human being, not to the carpenter. Okay?
Well,
Okay, let's go back inside.
since you started this thing with speaking of art,
If you just
I
said
understand.
something, I didn't hear what it was.
I understand what you're saying about the table and the carpenter, but if you go into a house and you see a beautiful painting, this is the merit of the artist.
No. If the painting is hanging in your wall, it's a merit of your appreciation of the art. Because if you did not feel comfortable with this piece of art, you don't want to live in a museum, you want to live in a personal home.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. You're the owner of the house and you...
Is it really necessary to go that far in this?
Okay.
I think it's clear. The point is very clear. Okay.
Can I interject here something?
Watch out, because you're going to yell over the head.
This is very politically correct. You're saying that a table, the conception of a table, is a reflection of the highest levels of a person's soul. And it occurs to me that in ancient times, there's in the jungle or in the caves, whatever, there's no reason to have a table. There's no necessity that brings on the thought of a table. Who was the first one who probably built a table? Adam Harishon. He built an altar and he made an offering to God. Okay, the first tables, when you take a flat, you build a high surface, flat, on which to do something, okay, on which to burn something.
What is your point, Shmuel?
The point is that all creativity had its original, was as a result of an impulse to connect to God.
Okay, but where does that impulse come from?
From the highest nefesh of the soul.
Okay, fine. And if you want to complete your sentence, you will realize that who provides dignity for the human being? It's stupid to say the human being is the one who guarantees it. It's God who provides it. This is why you have to you have to give cover to a person, because he's okay, so let's continue. Where is the clock hold?
10:26.
Okay, so we're almost over. I just want to. Let me repeat the top two lines of this last section on this page. Ulfizem moving with this above, it's clearly understood. Eich, how is it possible? How is this true? Sha'akav, that the kav. Legabe shorshoyum koroi. I looked upon from shorshim, from its source, where it's not a kav, where it's all spheres together. Who b'fchinas gilui ha'elam, still has an element of gilui ha'elam. It reveals that which was there behelam. Why so? You need a tzimtzum to go from that state into the kav. The answer is the hagam, because although sheham shocha hu alidei tzimtzum, although that the hamshocha from that state into the kav is through tzimtzum, which means there is, so to speak, a dramatic change. However, still, b'bchinas Sila Goyer, being that the Tzimtzum at that stage is not the quality that's called Sila Goyer, removing the oil. No, we do not take away the oil. Ki im only masha asfiras nischalku li esfiras nechodes. Only that the spheres were separated to become identified individual spheres. It's the same sphere. But now, instead of all the spheres coming together representing the Ein Sof, each sphere was identifiable individually. This is what the Kav is. Let's continue a few more words. The Chochma be'etzem, the Chochma, as it is in the Kav, which is the first sphere that surfaced individually. Be'etzem, in essence, Harei hi bechinas ha-Chochma shebein Sof. It is the very same Chochma that was in the Ein Sof. I'm going to skip after the parenthesis the next line. Rak, except shehi bebchinas miyud ha'oir. The same chokhmah, but bebchinas miyud ha'oir. Oir was reduced, not removed, but reduced. To speak of this very quickly. Initially, all the spheres were together, even after the Tzimtzum, because the spheres represented the oil from which they emanated, the oil in Sof. They were all together, even though they're 10 spheres, but the gnuzes, they intertwine, because they're all pointing to the source of the spheres. Then the oil in Sof was removed, and spheres were now able to be identified individually. At that point, they're still intertwined. Then we need a separate tzimtzum to bring the spheres out individually. Not as there is spheres, but individually. As you said, the Chochmah should be identified in individually. And in order to enable that the Chochmah should be identified individually, there has to be what's called miyud ha'oir. Miyud ha'oir, reduction of the oir. What does that mean? Do you remove the oir or reduce the oir? When oir in Sof is begili, so there is only oir. You're not paying attention to kelim altogether. It's not possible to put in the kelim. Which is only the reality from which it emanates. Then there is a tzimtzum and spheres surface, but the sphere surface altogether because they're representing the oir as the oir in Sof, from where they came from. So there are a whole bunch of spheres, 10 spheres together. What are these spheres at this moment speaking of? They're speaking of the oil which they represent. Again, what is oil? Oil is that which emanates and represents the etzem, the reality itself. The oil in the home, for example, is the human being. This is what makes the home a home, because there's a human being living here. Like we demonstrated this very phenomenal realization If you come into a house that is very well appointed, and it was set up artfully, that it looks like it was lived in. But then you find out that really nobody lived in this house, ever. This is a model. And you have a completely kind of loss of respect for this place. Because what? There's no oil. The situations are exactly identical, but there's no oil. There's no connection to the reality. In order to be able to identify every piece of furniture individually, you have to be focused, miyud hoyer. You cannot be focused on the human being completely. You have to be focused on miyud hoyer. What's miyud hoyer? Let's put it this way, practically. In a home, there has to be a table and a bed and a chair. But a table is in the dining room. And it is a table only when you in a meal time. A bedroom is in the bedroom, and it is a bed when in the sleeping time. In other words, you have identified a lot less elements of the oil of the person. That the oil of the person, surfaces in the different times and different functions. And that's when these things are valuable. That's when these things have when not during mealtime, the table is just a piece of furniture. But it's a furniture in a human life, in a human home, and therefore the oil is there, but it's reduced. You're not fully focus on it. Right now, you focus on a completely different thing. Not on the human element of the table, but on the structure of the table, on the place of the table.
What the point here is that no matter how reduced it gets, it never becomes like a model home.
That's right.
That's one of the points, right?
That's right.
Okay.
It doesn't become a model home, but there's a reduction in the oil.
So reduced that you can have actual physical items.
That's right. And you can relate to the actual physical item.
And they only become useful at set times in the day or whatever.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
So when you come into it, you still see that this is a home, but the oil, the human oil, is not there, overwhelming what you are observing. For example, you come into the home, and there's a table, and the balabos is sitting on the table, and you think you want to move the table over here. You'd be crazy. You're going to come to balabos and tell him, please get up, I want to move the table. But when he's absent, and you were discussing whatever it is, and you come to the conclusion that he would like it better if you move it over here. You go ahead and you move the table. Because under these circumstances, it's miyud ha'oyer, it's his home, but it's miyud. It's not you don't experience his presence the same way as when he's sitting there. Clearly, you're not going to come in and make some fundamental changes.
This is describing the second symptom.
That's right.
First was mistalek, was
Siluk.
All right, and that obviously means not complete disappearance either. Siluk you may think is complete absence, but
Oir Ein Sof is complete disappearance. But from the Oir Ein Sof, there is a projection of how the Oir Ein Sof can be represented in a reduced state.
So it is
We said before that
it's
a table is representing the nefesh Adam, but on a very, very low level.
So two things
Is that
in this
the-
world
is that the
represent
first
the Ein
principle?
Sof, like
That's
the
right.
sky or whatever.
That's right. Yes, brother.
Matil?
Yes, sir.
As long as you're with the marshal of the table in the home, and in that marshal, what is the first symptom? Where's the silica oil?
All right. To bring it down at that level, those detailed level, I have to go back a little bit. Your first identity of this home is barren. It's empty. It's a home. All the machine buys. Oh, this is a human home. This is a place where the human being will establish himself. That's when the table and chairs first begin to surface, even in your mind.
This is already the Shira, however. This is not.
This is the Hashorah.
What?
This is the Hashorah.
This is the Hashorah.
That's right. After the Hashorah comes the Tzimtzum.
So at that Hashorah level, there's still the Ein Sof. This is like before the first Tzimtzum.
That's right.
This is the Bechina Acharena.
I'm sorry?
This is the last. This is like the Malchus, the Bechina Acharena.
That's right.
In
That's right. That's the Hashorah. This is still part of the Ein Sof. But
part
this is Hashorah, how it's going to be further out.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that.
Baruch, before you get off, we were talking about yesterday a youth.
Okay, one second. If that's the case, okay, this is the end of the shir this morning.
We were talking about a youth test.
Fine.
la